Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parishar Astotar Sata Shri Srimadi's Divine Grace Ilaisi Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Furniture Beauty Furniture Jaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, chapter number 14, titled Pregnancy of Deity in the Evening, text number 11. Tad bhavan dayamanayam Tad bhavan dayamanayam Sapatninam samriddhibihi Sapatninam samriddhibihi Prajavatinam bhadramte Prajavatinam bhadramte Mai ayungtam anugraham Mai ayungtam anugraham Tadbhavandayamanayam Sapatninam samriddhibihi Prajavatinam bhadramte Maya yungtam anugraham Tadbhavandayamanayam Sapatninam samriddhibihi Prajavatinam bhadramte Maya yungtam anugraham Tadbhavandayamayaya Sapatninam samriddhibihi Nachakatinam bhadramte Tadbhavandayamanaya Sapatninam samriddhibihi Chavatinam bhadramte Maya yungtam anugraham Tadbhavandayamanaya Maya yungtam anugraham Matajis Tadbhavandayamanayam Sapatninam samriddhibihi Bhadramte Maya yungtam anugraham Tadbhavandayamanayam Sapatninam samriddhibihi Prajavatinam bhadramte Maya yungtam anugraham Tadbhavandayamanayam Sapatninam samriddhibihi Prajavatinam bhadramte Maya yungtam anugraham. Word for word translation. Tat, therefore, Bhavan, your good self, Dayamanayam, being distressed. Sapatninam, of the co-wives. Samriddhibihi, by the prosperity. Prajavatinam, of those who have children. Bhadram, all prosperity. Te, unto you. Mai, unto me. Ayungtam, do unto me in all respects. Anugraham, favor. So can we just get the volume a bit more up? Translation purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: therefore you should be kind towards me, showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives. By performing this act, you will become happy. Purport: in Bhagavad Gita, sexual intercourse for begetting children is accepted as righteous. A person sexually inclined for simple sense gratification, however, is unrighteous. In deity's appeal to her husband for sex, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by sex desires, but she desired sons. Since she had no sons, she felt poorer than her co-wives. Therefore, Kashyapa was supposed to satisfy his bona fide wife. So, short purport, we'll go to the next text, text number 12. Bhartari aptoru mananam lokan abhisateyasaha patir bhavad vidho yasam prajaya nanujayate. Translation: a woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for the expansion of living entities. Purport: according to Rishabdev, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. Human life is the only opportunity to get out of the material scene, which is full of the miseries of birth, death, old age, and diseases. Every human being should be given the opportunity to take advantage of his human form of life. And a father like Kashyapa is supposed to beget good children for the purpose of liberation. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurumanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So it's a very auspicious occasion of Ekadasi today. So we get special mercy, extra blessings. Also, it's said in the Bhagavatam itself that any spiritual activity that we do in a holy place of pilgrimage or in a temple of Krishna, we get 1,000 times the spiritual benefit than us doing the same activity outside of a temple or holy place. So whatever spiritual activities we do, by coming to 180 Falcon, North Sydney, will be times 1,000 times than us doing the same activity elsewhere. Plus today is Ekadasi, so we get even more spiritual credits for coming and hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're in chapter 14 of 3rd canto, titled The Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. So just a quick recap before we get into today's purport and verse. In the 1st canto of Bhagavatam, in one verse, Prabhupada explains that the whole Bhagavatam, it talks about 2 topics. You can summarize all the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam into 2 different subject matters. Number 1, Bhagavatam talks about the pastimes of different devotees of the Lord. And number 2, Bhagavatam talks about pastimes of the Lord Himself. And when we go into the subject matter of the pastimes of the devotees of the Lord, we'll see how the whole Bhagavatam is full of so many amazing stories of different Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis also. And one thing I was thinking about while going through this section of Bhagavatam is that when we study the characteristics of all the devotees which are mentioned in the Bhagavatam, one common trait we'll see through all of these devotees mentioned in Bhagavatam is how they're demonstrating the Vaishnava quality of humility. For example, in this third canto, who are the characters who are put forward in this third canto? At the start, we have Vidura and Uddhava. Okay, so Bhagavatam in third canto introduces us to these two characters, devotees of the Lord, Vidura and Uddhava. And we'll see both of them demonstrating humility. For example, at the start, Vidura, Uddhava, they're having a conversation, they're discussing Krishna Katha. Then Vidura, he asks Uddhava that, can you please further describe to me what you heard from Krishna himself before Krishna departed? And what was Uddhava's response? Uddhava said that it's not proper for me to preach to you because you're actually elder than me. In terms of age, you're more advanced, and I'm just like your son, so how can I instruct you? How can I preach to you? Instead, it will be more appropriate if you take instruction from Maitra Rishi, who's just nearby. Maitra Rishi is much more advanced than me. He is much more elevated than me. You please take guidance from Maitra Rishi. So this is Uddhava showing humility. Although Uddhava is much more spiritually advanced than Maitra Rishi. Before Maitra Rishi, he heard the conversation between Krishna and Uddhava. Maitra Rishi, he wasn't a pure devotee of the Lord, Prabhupada mentions. He had some traces of jnana, yoga, and his bhakti was tinged with other things. He wasn't pure devotion. But after he heard the conversation of Krishna and Uddhava, by the power of Krishna Katha, he was transformed and then he became a pure Vaishnava. But in terms of spiritualization, Uddhava was much more advanced. But still, Uddhava was following Vaishnava etiquette. Uddhava was demonstrating humility and giving the Vyasasana to Maitra Rishi instead. Then the next character, Vidura, we have. And we see Vidura, he's inquiring from Maitra Rishi. And who is Vidura? Vidura is none other than Yamaraj. And who is Yamaraj? Yamaraj is one of the 12 Mahajans. And who are the Mahajans? Mahajans are the authorities of bhakti. So Yamaraj is put in the same category as personalities like Narad Muni, Sukadev Goswami, Bhishma Dev, so on and so forth. So Yamaraj is no ordinary person. In fact, he is put in that list, top 12 list of devotees who we should follow to do bhakti. He is one of the 12 Mahajans. So he's one of the most elevated, greatest devotees. He's put in the same category as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, 4 Kumaras, so on and so forth. So, technically speaking, who is more spiritually realized? Who is in spiritual standing? Who is greater? It's actually Vidura, not Maitra Rishi. Because Vidura is Yamaraj himself. Vidura himself is one of the 12 Mahajans. But still, we see the role swap. It's not Vidura, it's not Yamaraj instructing Maitra Rishi, it's the other way around. Vidura is coming very humbly, asking Maitra Rishi, can you please explain to me what you heard in the conversation? And so again, we see the same quality of humility being demonstrated by Vidura. Although he's so much more elevated, although he's one of the 12 Mahajans, the 12 authorities of bhakti, but if you ask him, he doesn't feel himself to be authority of bhakti. He still feels that I can learn something else. I can still learn more. So this is the nature of bhakti, that there will never come a point when we will think that we have achieved it. There will never come a point when we think, okay, I've learned enough. I know enough about Krishna. I know enough about devotional service. We'll always feel that we're behind. We always feel that we need to do more. We need to learn more. And this is demonstrated by Vidura, Yamaraj himself. Although he's so much more advanced, still in his heart, he's feeling, still there's much more for me to learn. Still there's much more for me to gain from this Vaishnava's association. He's not looking down upon Maitra Rishi thinking, or just, a couple of days ago, this rishi wasn't a pure bhakta, he was tinged with, jnana, so on and so forth. Why should I listen to him? No, he's taking a very humble stand and very submissively hearing from Maitra Rishi. And then who's the third character in this canto we've seen? That's Maitra Rishi. He himself is also demonstrating humility. Whenever he's asked any question by Vidura, we'll see in this canto, he will first thank Vidura for asking such a wonderful question. And he'll offer his gratitude towards Vidura, saying, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak about Krishna. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to glorify Krishna. So again, this is a demonstration of humility. And before Maitra Rishi will answer questions, he'll always refer, okay, I'll answer your question. I heard previously from so-and-so personality, the same subject matter, and what I heard from my authority, what I heard from other Vaishnavas, what I heard from other senior devotees, I'm just going to simply repeat. So this is again another demonstration of humility, that one just simply repeats whatever he has heard from his spiritual master, whatever he has heard from senior Vaishnavas. He doesn't concoct anything new. So in this way, if we study the entire Bhagavatam, if we make a list of all the devotees which I mentioned in Bhagavatam, you'll see every single devotee in Bhagavatam, they will very graphically demonstrate this Vaishnava quality of humility. Currently, I'm reading 11th canto Bhagavatam right at the start. And at the start of 11th canto, there's the conversation between Narad Muni and Krishna's father, Vasudeva. And the acharyas explained that Vasudeva coming and begging Narad Muni for spiritual instructions is very significant. Why so? Because Vasudeva, who is he? He's no ordinary person. He's none other than the father of Krishna himself. So there's no greater position than that. He's even greater than God himself. Being the father of God, what position can be greater than that? So he's right there at the top. But still, the acharyas explain, what's Vasudeva doing? Out of humility, he's thinking that actually my devotional service is not good enough. That actually my bhakti is not good enough. That actually I still have so much more spiritual advancement to make. And here is Narad Muni, a great Vaishnava. Let me offer my obeisances at his lotus feet. Let me beg him for spiritual instructions, by which I can better do my devotional service. And the acharyas explain that we should zoom in on this moment and take lesson from Vasudeva. The heart of Vasudeva is such, the acharyas explain, that he is thinking inside of himself that actually the service which I am rendering to Radha Krishna is actually not good enough for them. Is actually not up to the mark or standard. But Krishna is very merciful. He is overlooking all of my faults. He is overlooking all the faults in my devotional service. And although my devotional service is not good enough, still out of his causeless mercy, he is accepting whatever devotional service I'm doing. But now there's Narad Muni. He is a great Vaishnava. Let me learn from him how I can make my imperfect devotional service more perfect. So this, the acharyas explain, this should be the mood of all Vaishnavas. We should never think that the service we're rendering to Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, no matter whatever service, could be distributing books, cooking, cleaning, managing, making garlands, deity worship. No matter what service we do, the acharyas explain, we should always feel that actually the service which I'm rendering to Guru and Krishna is not good enough. There's so many faults, there's so many imperfections, and actually it's not good enough, but still, Srila Prabhupada and Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, they're so merciful that they're overlooking all my faults and they're very magnanimously accepting my service. If we always feel that way, then we'll always want to improve. If we understand this, then we'll always be in a mood of improvement. And that's defined as Raganuga Bhakti. Spontaneous, Ghanshyam Prabhu is mentioning that twice or three times he asked his Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Goswami Maharaj, the same question, that how can we do Raganuga Bhakti? What is Raganuga Bhakti? He asked this question to his spiritual master 3 times in different occasions. And all the 2 times or 3 times he got the same answer. That Raganuga Bhakti simply means, spontaneous loving devotional service simply means that you keep doing the same service again and again, but every time you do that service, you try and improve. You try and do that service better and better and better and better. You never think that I've done this service good enough. And you always try and improve that service. You always try and do that service better and better and better, eternally. Never thinking that I have achieved it. Never thinking, okay, I've made it. But eternally just keep on improving that service again and again and again. If we're going in that frequency, if we're going in that mood, just like demonstrated by Vasudeva in 11th canto, although he is the father of Krishna, still he doesn't think, okay, I've achieved the top. He's still thinking, my service is imperfect, I need to improve, I need to improve, I need to do better service for Krishna, I need to do better service for Krishna, I need to give Krishna more pleasure, I need to give Krishna more pleasure. So this is the anxiety of all Vaishnavas. They always feel that there is so much more room for improvement in their devotional service, and they're always trying to improve their devotional service. How? By taking guidance from other Vaishnavas. They don't think that I am great and the other Vaishnavas are lower than me. But they see all other Vaishnavas are great servants of the Lord, and they try and seek inspiration from other Vaishnavas. And they use that inspiration to better their own devotional service. So this is something we'll see throughout the whole Bhagavatam being displayed. And now currently we're seeing this displayed by Vidura, how he's asking so many questions to Maitra Rishi, although technically speaking he's much more advanced. So now in the course of the discussion, in previous chapter they were talking about Lord Varahadev, and particularly Maitra Rishi was describing, as you know, there's two Varahadevs. One is the whitish Varahadev that comes during Swayambhu Manu's time, and at that time there is an untimely partial annihilation of the universe, and Varahadev, he picks up the earth from Garbhodaksha ocean. In this Manvantara, Swayambhu Manu's Manvantara, there is no Hiranyaksha. It's just an untimely partial dissolution that happens. The second Varahadev that comes, that's the reddish Varahadev. That's the one we see the picture of, the painting of. That Varahadev is the one that kills Hiranyaksha. So the second time planet Earth goes underwater is due to Hiranyaksha. Because of the demon, Hiranyaksha comes and he puts the earth underwater. That time Varahadev, again he comes and he saves planet Earth. And we were discussing earlier on, the first Varahadev, the whitish Varahadev, he comes out of Brahma's nostril. But the second Varahadev, the reddish Varahadev, this time he comes from Garbhodaksha ocean. He doesn't come from Brahma's nose. So Krishna, in different pastimes, he'll do things a bit differently. He's not like a robot, doing exactly the same thing again and again and again. Same thing with Nrsimhadev. He comes many times. Different times he does different things. In our Bhagavatam, we hear Nrsimhadev coming out of the pillar. In other days of Brahma, it's given. Sometimes Nrsimhadev, he doesn't come from a pillar. He comes flying from the sky and just comes straight into Hiranyakashipu's kingdom. So in this way, Krishna, he does his pastimes again and again, but there's always some difference. Otherwise, doing the same thing again and again, it's boring. Variety is the mother of enjoyment. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, so he'll do the same pastimes in different ways. So in this chapter, Viduraji, he's asking Maitra Rishi that you've described about the first Varahadev, but I've also heard from other sources about Hiranyaksha being killed by Varahadev. So can you please describe a bit more about how this whole pastime came about between Varahadev and Hiranyaksha? So in answer to that, now Maitra Rishi is giving this background of how the story of Diti and Kasyapa, which I think most of us know the story of how Diti and Kasyapa, due to begetting children at an inauspicious time, they end up begetting the two greatest demons of all time, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And then Varahadev will come later on. So when I'm thinking about this pastime of Diti, Kasyapa, how they're getting these two sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, there's a first thing that comes to my mind is one very powerful verse from the Bhagavad Gita. This is towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Ya shastra vidim utsrija vartate kamakarta na sasiddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. So it's a very important verse of Bhagavad Gita we should always remember. In this verse, Krishna says, if one doesn't follow the instructions of the Shastras, and if one just simply whimsically acts based on his own mind, senses, based on the urges of his mind and senses, then what is the consequence? If he doesn't follow the Shastra, if he just acts based on his own mind and mental concoctions, as an end result of that, he won't attain perfection. As an end result of that, he won't attain happiness. And as an end result of that, he won't attain the supreme destination. which means the opposite is also true. If we want to attain perfection, if we want to be happy in life, and if we want to attain the supreme destination, Goloka Vrindavan, then we have to strictly follow the Shastras. So this is the key to happiness, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. If you want to be happy in life, if you don't want to be miserable, if you want to be always happy, Krishna says, you just simply strictly follow the instructions which is given in the Shastras. To the degree we strictly follow the Shastras, to that degree we'll be happy, to that degree we'll perfect ourselves, and to that degree we're guaranteed to go back home, back to Godhead. And in this particular Leela which we're reading now, the story of Diti and Kashyapa, we're seeing a graphic, real-life example of this verse in action. What's Krishna saying? If you don't follow Shastra, you won't be happy, you won't attain perfection, you won't go back to Godhead. And what are Diti and Kashyapa doing in this chapter? There are certain instructions the Shastras give when it comes to begetting children. But Diti and Kashyapa, Diti approaches Kashyapa saying that all of my co-wives, they all have children. I also desire to also have a child. Kashyapa says, okay, no problem, we'll do, but this current time is inauspicious for this activity. Just wait a bit longer. When the auspicious time comes, I'll give you a child. But Diti says, no, and she insists, and they end up begetting children during an inauspicious time. So they do a particular activity which is against the Shastras. And what does Krishna says? In the Bhagavad Gita, if you go against the Shastra, you won't be happy. You'll be put into distress, you'll be put into suffering. And we see that real life action here. Diti and Kashyapa, they go against the Shastras, and what is the end result? They beget Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, the greatest demons of all time. So later on we'll see the anxiety and the suffering, the mental distress. Diti and Kashyapa, they come to later on. So this can happen to us also. So that's why the Acharyas explained that we should very firmly and strictly hold on to the lotus feet of the Shastras. The Shastras are non-different from Krishna himself. If we want to be happy, peaceful in life, we have to strictly follow the Shastras. Just like we have our GPS in all of our cars. If we want to go to a certain destination we don't know, we put the GPS and we strictly follow the directions of the GPS, then we'll very nicely and quickly, swiftly go to that particular destination. If we deviate from the GPS, then instead of taking 30 minutes, it will take us 40 minutes. If we deviate a bit more, then you add another 5 minutes. If we deviate more, it will add another 5 minutes. Like this, the time span increases more and more. But someone who very strictly follows the GPS, he'll very swiftly go to the destination. Similarly, as Vaishnavas, our GPS, our direction in life is Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. We follow the directions of our spiritual masters, we follow the directions of the sadhus, and we follow the directions of the Shastras. Out of these three, Prabhupada explains, the most important out of these three is the Shastra. Because whatever the Guru speaks is simply from the Shastra, and whatever the Sadhu speaks is simply from the Shastra. So this is our GPS, this is the GPS of all devotees, of all Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, that we follow the directions of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And Krishna says, right there openly in Gita, that this is the secret of happiness. You just simply take guidance from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, you'll be happy. Everything, this life you'll be happy, and next life you'll go back home, back to Godhead. You won't have any troubles. You just simply have that faith and you just surrender onto Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. A few days ago, we were discussing about Dhruva Maharaj. Braja Prem Prabhu was giving a nice class about Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes. And during the class, Prabhu was quoting one very nice verse that Narad Muni, he gives to Dhruva Maharaj when Narad Muni meets Dhruva Maharaj in the forest. And this verse is again a very powerful verse. In this verse, Narad Muni explains, we all heard of the threefold miseries. How material nature will give us miseries in three different ways. Miseries caused by our own mind and senses, miseries caused by other living beings, and miseries caused by nature or the demigods, natural disasters, so on and so forth. So Narad Muni, in one of these very famous verses in 4th canto, he gives a tip in how we can dodge these threefold miseries. So it's given that these threefold miseries, they're like the trident of Durga Devi. So trident has 3 sharp tips. So these tips of the trident of Durga Devi are represented by the threefold miseries. So Durga Devi, she has service to Krishna. She is punishing all conditioned souls by poking them with a trident, by poking them with miseries caused by their mind, miseries caused by other living beings, and miseries caused by material nature. But in this verse by Narad Muni to Dhruva Maharaj, he explains how we can dodge that trident of Durga Devi, how we can completely avoid all suffering, all 3 of the sufferings, and how we can always be peaceful and happy. What is that? Narad Muni explains we have to do 3 things. If we very nicely and strictly do 3 things, we can avoid all suffering caused by Maya or Durga Devi. Number 1, Narad Muni says that when we meet someone who is greater than us, we should feel happy and we should feel joyful. Number 2, Narad Muni says, when we meet someone who is equal to us, we should develop friendship with them. Number 3, Narad Muni says, when we meet someone who is lower than us, we should feel compassionate, we should show compassion and mercy and help them come up. In the purport, Prabhupada explains that unfortunately our conditioned nature is the opposite. Narad Muni is saying when you meet someone greater than you, you become very happy and joyful. But Prabhupada says, unfortunately, our fallen condition is such, when we meet someone who's greater than us, we become envious and we become morose. Oh, this person has come, he's singing better than me, or he's doing this better than me, he's beating me in this, so and so forth. I wish, he would just disappear or, go somewhere else. And when we meet someone lower than us, instead of being compassionate, instead of being merciful, helping them, bringing them up, what do? We think ourselves better than them and we ridicule them. They just say, what this person's doing, he's so foolish, he doesn't know, his intelligence is very low, this person, So we make fun of them. So Prabhupada said, unfortunately, this is our material condition, but we should bring ourselves out of these conditionings and follow these 3 instructions of Narad Muni. If we do these 3 things, Narad Muni explains, we can avoid all suffering caused by material nature. Narad Muni explains that any suffering that comes in our lives, it could be suffering by our own mind, it could be suffering by other living entities, it could be some suffering caused by material nature. The root cause of that suffering is because we're not doing one of these 3 things. That is the root cause of all of our sufferings, Narad Muni explains. Either we're not properly dealing with our superiors properly, either we're not properly associating with our equals properly, or either we are not properly dealing with those persons who are lower than us. Because of not doing one of these 3 things, or because of not doing 2 of these 3 things, or because of not doing all 3 of these things, sufferings and miseries as a reaction for that will come upon us by Durga Devi. But if we do all 3 of these things nicely, properly associate with those who are senior to us, properly associate with those who are equal to us, and properly associate with those who are lower than us, Narad Muni explains, we can dodge the trident of Durga Devi. We can overcome or immunize ourselves against the threefold sufferings of material nature. It's like being triple vaccinated against the triple miseries of material existence. You just do these 3 things, that's like your triple vaccination, and these threefold miseries of material existence, they won't touch you. You'll be immunized. They might come, but you won't be affected by them. You'll just be able to maintain your calm and peace. So in this way, this is just one verse of the Bhagavatam from 18,000 verses. So just imagine, just one verse has so much deep meaning, so much significance. If we just follow this one verse of Bhagavatam, our life will be perfect, this life will be perfect, this life will be happy, and we'll go back home, back to Godhead. So that is the potency of just one verse of Bhagavatam. Imagine someone, if we can just follow one verse, we can go back to Godhead, what to speak of, all the other verses of Bhagavatam. So this is the potency of the Shastra. That's why Krishna says in the Gita, one who doesn't follow the Shastra, he can't attain perfection, he can't attain happiness, and he can't attain the supreme destination. one personal story I'll share in reference to the power of Bhagavatam, of just hearing a little bit or reading a bit from the Bhagavatam. One time last year, I came for Bhagavatam class, and Brajaprem Prabhu, he was giving the class, and I attended the class, I heard Prabhu's class. Then I took breakfast, and then we went out to distribute books. And that day we went to Lidcombe to do door-to-door in Lidcombe. Lidcombe is near Stratfield. So we started distributing books, and books was going very slow. And I was looking at my watch, time is clicking, half an hour gone, 1 hour gone, 1.5 hour gone, not many books going out. And then I was thinking, what's happening? Lunchtime is coming soon, not many books is going. I need some, what should I do? And while I was thinking like this, I remembered one point which I had heard in Bhagavatam class earlier on, a few hours ago, in Prabhu's Bhagavatam class. It just came to my mind. During the class, Brajaprem Prabhu, he was explaining how, as devotees, we should all be like mercy hunters. So Prabhu used that phrase, mercy hunters. We should always be hunting and seeking and looking for mercy. Mercy from the Vaishnavas, mercy from Krishna, mercy from the books, mercy from the holy name, so on and so forth. So we should always be on the lookout to get more and more mercy, collect mercy. So Prabhu was mentioning this point in the class, how we should become mercy hunters. So just that one line was stuck in my head. And while books was going slow, that one line came to my mind from Prabhu's Bhagavatam class. Just that one simple statement, that we should be like mercy hunters. So that came to my mind. Then I was thinking, okay, I need to be a mercy hunter, but where is the mercy? I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm in just some random street in the middle of Sydney. All around me, there's just houses, and houses, and there's just a road. And on that side, there's the main, the Parramatta Road going. So where's the mercy? Okay, in the temple, I can get mercy here, mercy there, mercy here, there. There's mercy everywhere in temple. But here am I in the middle of Sydney, just reading books. Where is the mercy? Where can I hunt the mercy from? So then I was thinking, where can I get mercy from? Then another verse came to mind about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How one who remembers Mahaprabhu, for him, all difficult things become easy. And one who forgets Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even the easiest thing become difficult. Katamchanam smite yasmin duskaram sukrim bhavad vismrite viprayam shat Sri Chaitanya namami tvam. So it's a very powerful verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So as I was contemplating, where can I hunt for mercy? I need mercy, no books are going out. I need to somehow or other gather mercy and distribute books. Then immediately Mahaprabhu comes to mind. So then I prayed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then immediately, instantly, the whole equation just changes. Immediately I meet one person, I think she was from Tonga or Samoa, and then she takes a book. Then a few houses down, one old lady from Europe, she takes a book. Then I go to the other side of the street, and I'm coming. On the other side of the street, again I knock on the door, and another Tongan man comes out. And then I tell him that just across the street I met another Tongan lady. And she said, oh yeah, I know them. They're my cousins. And then I told him, yeah, your cousin took one, you also take one. Then he also took. Then he went in, and just after he went into his house, one car just pulls up, and another Tongan person comes out of the car. And then, again, I told him the same thing, that I just talked to your neighbor on the other side, she took, and I met this guy, he took. You also take. Then he also took. Then again, down the street, I meet another old lady, she again takes a set of books. So like this in half an hour, the whole equation just changes. Just by remembering just one phrase, just 2 words from Bhagavatam class. So that is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. If we just remember one sentence from Bhagavatam class, if we just remember one verse or one line Prabhupada's mentioning the purport, if we just carry that on our day, that can completely change our lives. That can completely change our day. That one line can take us back to Godhead. So this is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the potency of the Shastras. And if one doesn't follow it, then we see from the consequences here in this chapter how Diti and Kashyapa, they end up begetting Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So that's the other side, if one doesn't follow the Shastra. Okay, I'll read the purport. According to Rishabh Dev, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. So Prabhupada, in today's purport, he is quoting one famous verse from 5th canto by Lord Rishabhdev, who is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is in 5th canto. Lord Rishabhdev says, Guru na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, devam na tachan, na patis chasasyan, na mochayedya samupeta mrityum. So in this very powerful verse, in 5th canto, Lord Rishabhdev, he says that Guru na sasyat, one shouldn't become a guru or a spiritual master. Swajano na sasyat, one shouldn't become a relative. Pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, one shouldn't become one's pita, one shouldn't become one's father, one shouldn't become janani, one shouldn't become one's mother. Then he says one shouldn't become a deva, one shouldn't become a demigod. And number 6, one shouldn't become one's husband if he is not able to deliver their dependents from the clutches of birth and death. If someone doesn't have that qualification to deliver their dependents from birth and death, to help them go back to Krishna, then he shouldn't become a guru, he shouldn't become a father, mother, he shouldn't become a deva, he shouldn't become a relative, so on and so forth. He shouldn't become a husband. That's the 6th one. So this verse Prabhupada is quoting in today's verse to explain the significance or the importance that a father and mother have. That begetting children and raising them in Krishna consciousness is a big responsibility. And what is the responsibility? That the parents have the responsibility to bring up the children nicely in Krishna consciousness, give them a good start, and direct them towards Krishna. And few stories of Prabhupada comes to mind with in regard to children. Prabhupada, he used to love devotee children. And one time in reference to importance of taking care of children, there was one Mataji, she just had a newly born child, and she was engaged in deity worship, so she had left a young child in the care of another Mataji, and she had gone to do deity worship. And then Prabhupada comes and he sees, and Prabhupada immediately asks, where is his mother? Where is this child's mother? The mother should always be with the child. Where is she gone? Excuse me. And then the other devotees say, oh, Prabhupada, she's engaged in deity worship, so temporarily she's leaving the child elsewhere. And then Prabhupada, he says that she should know that her prime business, of prime duty, her prime devotional service is to take care of her children. And if taking care of her children is taking up whole day, no problem. She can skip her deity worship. She can stop her deity worship, but she should understand, more important than her deity worship is her taking care of her children. This is her prime service. This is her prime devotional service. This is very important, to take care of the children and bring them up nicely in Krishna consciousness. And if she's not getting enough time, then she can skip her deity worship, but this should be her first duty. So this is one very instructive pastime where Prabhupada is emphasizing on taking care of our children nicely and bringing them up nicely in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada, he used to have a lot of fun with devotee kids, especially, the famous Saraswati, daughter of Shamsundar Prabhu. Prabhupada used to always have fun with her. And I was just reading recently how Prabhupada, he would always enjoy making little Saraswati cry. So Prabhupada is like grandfather, so they would have a grandfather, granddaughter, like very friendly, jovial relationship. So generally, disciples, they would find it a bit scary to come into Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada's Jagat Guru, before they come to Prabhupada's room, they have to knock or get permission from senior devotees, ask permission from secretary or servant, and then come in, offer obeisances. It's like great awe and reverence. But Saraswati, she had very friendly relationship with Srila Prabhupada, and it's mentioned that whenever she wanted, she would just barge into Prabhupada's room without knocking nothing. And Prabhupada gave her the license that she could just come into the room whenever she wanted, and she can just come straight to Prabhupada and play with Prabhupada. So one of the things that Prabhupada loved to do with Saraswati was to make her cry, and in a joking way. So one time, what Prabhupada did is, Shamashundar Prabhu, he was temporarily leaving that particular temple or location to go out somewhere for a few days. And Prabhupada told Saraswati that, your father, he's leaving today, and he's not going to come back. This is the last time you'll see your father. He's never ever going to come back. He's going to be gone for a very, 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 very long time. And then immediately Saraswati, thinking that she's going to lose her father, she starts crying. And then Prabhupada says, okay, don't worry, stop crying. It's okay. What we'll do, I have a solution. What we'll do, don't cry. Although your father is going away for a long time, I have a solution. What we'll do, you see one of these suitcases in here? And Saraswati sees the suitcases, yes. And Prabhupada says, what we'll do, we'll take one of these suitcases and we'll put you inside that suitcase. And we'll pack you up tight, very tightly into that suitcase, and we'll ship you by airplane to where your father is. And for many, many days, you'll have to be tightly packed in that suitcase in the airplane. Then you can see your father. Then again, Saraswati, she starts crying, and Prabhupada starts laughing. Another story that comes to mind is, there was I think in the airport or somewhere, Prabhupada was seated. Prabhupada had a garland of flowers, and there was one little devotee child. And this devotee kid, he was just very small, like a toddler. He was wearing a tiny little baby dhoti, and he wasn't wearing a shirt. He was shirtless, but he had this cute little, baby dhoti he was wearing. And he had nice big tilak and big shika also at the back, this little baby toddler. And this toddler, what he was doing, he got a flower and he came up and he offered the flower to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, he accepted the flower very graciously. But then after a few minutes, the baby kid comes again to Prabhupada and asks for the flower back. And then Prabhupada says, okay. And Prabhupada gives the child the flower again. Then again he goes away. Then again he comes and offers Prabhupada a flower. Then again Prabhupada, he accepts the flower. Then again he comes back and says, give me flower back. And then Prabhupada, he again gives the flower. Like this, it continues on for some time. Then finally, he's coming back and asking Prabhupada for the flower. And Prabhupada saying, no, I won't give you the flower. Then he says, no, give me the flower. And Prabhupada says, no, I won't give you the flower. And then this kid, he changes tactics. He goes out, he picks up other flowers, and then he starts throwing it at Srila Prabhupada. And what does Prabhupada do? Prabhupada picks up that same flower and then again throws it back at that child. Then again that kid, he picks up another flower, then again he throws it at Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada again, he picks up the flower and throws it at the kid. Like this, a flower fight starts between Prabhupada and this little devotee child. Then what happens? The kid, he runs out of flowers to throw at Prabhupada. So he doesn't know where to get flower from. But he notices Prabhupada is wearing a garland around his neck. So what does he do? He comes straight up to Prabhupada and he starts to grab one of the flowers on Prabhupada's garland. And as he's coming to pick a flower from Prabhupada's garland, Prabhupada just catches hold of his hand. And he's trying to shake his little baby hand away from Prabhupada, but Prabhupada is not letting go. Then what does Prabhupada do? Prabhupada has him in his clutches, right there, point blank range. Then Prabhupada himself takes out one flower from his garland, and Prabhupada throws it at the little child, right at point blank range. So in this way, the flower fight continues between Prabhupada and this child. So like this, there's many sweet pastimes of Srila Prabhupada and the little devotee children. Back then in the 70s, Prabhupada would often give Mahaprasad to little kids, cookies, laddus, so on and so forth. And it's mentioned all the devotee kids, they all love Prabhupada so much. He was like their grandfather. So in this way, to bring up the children in Krishna consciousness is a very important duty, Prabhupada explains. I'll continue on the purport. Human life is the only opportunity to get out of the material scene, which is full of the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. Every human being should be given the opportunity to take advantage of his human form of life. And the father, like Kasyapa, is supposed to beget good children for the purpose of liberation. So the responsibility, as Rishabhdev says, the responsibility every mother, father, spiritual master, husband, deva, relative is that whoever the dependents are, they have to assist them in overcoming the cycle of birth and death. If they can do that, okay, then they're real mother and father. There's one pastime, Prabhupada was in India, and there was one famous magician that comes to take darshan of Prabhupada. His name is P.C. Sarkar. So he was a very famous Indian magician. And he takes darshan of Prabhupada. Prabhupada talks to him and he says that, Swamiji, I would like to do a magic show for you. For your pleasure, for you and all the devotees, I would like to put up a magic show. And Prabhupada says, okay, no problem. You can come in the evening. You can do your magic show. We'll all watch and we'll have a good time. So then in the evening, this magician, he comes and he starts doing his magic tricks. And usually when you do a magic show, the magician, he needs a volunteer, right? To display all of his magic skills. So this particular magician, he uses Prabhupada as his volunteer. So during magic trick, the magician will do different things with the volunteer. Ask him to pick a card or manifest something from behind the head of this person, This way, play around with the volunteer. So this way, he was playing around with Srila Prabhupada, showing different tricks, making different things appear, making different things disappear. And Prabhupada was having a good time. Prabhupada was laughing. And seeing Prabhupada laughing, all the other devotees, they also had a good time. They were also laughing. Then at the end, finally after he was finished, Prabhupada was laughing and laughing. Then Prabhupada told this magician, P.C. Sarkar, that, so-and-so, you're a good magician, but actually I am a greater magician than you. And then this magician asked, oh, really, Swamiji? How is that so? How are you a greater magician than me? Then Prabhupada tells this magician that, can you make, you're able to make cards appear and disappear, you're able to make balls appear and disappear, you're able to make flowers appear and disappear, but can you make birth, death, old age, and disease disappear? Can you make these 4 things disappear? And then this magician says, no, I can't do that. Prabhupada then said, I can. Then this magician says, yes, Swamiji, you are a greater magician than me. So this is the responsibility of the guru, the father, mother, the husband, so on and so forth. So a spiritual master, he needs to know this magic trick. He should be able to know this magic trick of how to make birth, death, old age, disease disappear. A father, a mother, a husband, they also need to know this magic trick of how to make birth, death, old age, and disease disappear. Unless one knows this magic trick, Rishabhdev explains, one shouldn't be one of these 6 things. I'll stop here. If there's any questions or comments for yes, bro.
You're mentioning about Rishabhdeva's birth.
Yeah.
What is the significance of a relative? I mean, literally the task is impossible, isn't it? Delivering the relatives. All the other ones you mentioned, like demigod or father, mother, it's kind of one-to-one relationship. But when it comes to relatives, you've got literally tens and hundreds of them, right?
No, this was talking about the responsibility that different people have. So mother and father, they have the responsibility to assist the child in coming close to the Krishna. So in the same way this verse is saying, that relatives also, they have their responsibility. So you can be an uncle of some particular child. So as the uncle of a particular child, it's your responsibility for your nephew to bring them closer to Krishna. Or you could be the grandfather of a particular kid. As the grandfather, your relative, it's your responsibility to assist your grandson to come closer towards Krishna. So that's what this verse is saying. Yes, bro.
Just looking at that point, you're saying Vidura, despite the fact he was superior to Maitreya, he still had this mood of humility and submissively inquiring. Then we go to Narottam Das Thakur and he sings Haha Prabhu Nitina Nanda Premananda Sukhi Moy Samaphavi Napaive Ada. So he's saying, I'm the most fallen. So do we worship Narottam Das Thakur to get that same blessing of humility, and therefore Lord Nityananda, does he bestow that humility upon the devotees? Is that the
Yes, we become like who we associate with. So when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, we're associating with Srila Prabhupada when we're reading his purports. And Prabhupada is himself an embodiment of humility. So as we read Prabhupada's books deeply, we'll associate with Prabhupada, and we'll also absorb that quality of humility that Prabhupada has. Same way, you were mentioning Srila Narottam Das Thakur, one of our acharyas, all of our great acharyas, they're all embodiment of humility. So when we read these songs of Narottam Das Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, where they're speaking such amazing words of utter humility, when we're reading their words, we're actually associating with Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, we're actually associating with Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And by associating with them, what will happen as an end result? We'll also start acquiring their qualities. So as we sing these Vaishnava bhajans, all of these qualities that these acharyas have in their heart, we'll also slowly start getting those qualities. So whoever we associate with, we get their qualities. Same thing, as we chant the Hare Krishna mantra deeply, who are we associating with? We're associating with Shri Radha Krishna. And they're the reservoir of all good qualities. So by associating with Krishna himself, we'll also develop the quality of humility. By associating with other Vaishnavas, their good qualities also comes upon us. So in this way, we all, by planning our lifestyle in such a way that we get maximum association of the Vaishnavas, of great devotees of Krishna, we can slowly cultivate humility. Yes, Ruth.
Prabhu, you were mentioning about Mahajans. What is their prime duty? How they are different from Prajapatis? Are they dozen Mahajans as well, like Prajapatis? What is their prime functionality?
Okay, Mahajan literally means, Prabhupada says, authority in devotional service. So, many times when Prabhupada will define the term Acharya, he will say Acharya is one who very strictly himself practices all the rules and regulations given in the Shastra. That's number one. And number two, Prabhupada would say, the Acharya is one who teaches by his personal example how to do bhakti. So this is something that Mahajans do. They themselves practice bhakti very nicely, and they lead by example. They've put forward the path to other upcoming bhaktas how one should do devotional service. So by their own example, Mahajans, they teach us how to do bhakti, how to nicely do devotional service when challenges come, how to face those challenges, in good times how to remember Krishna, so on and so forth. Prajapatis, it's more like material side, like in terms of just begetting children, populating the universe. Like Daksha, he's not known for being very spiritually advanced. He's made a lot of blunders in the Bhagavatam. But he is a Prajapati, which means he assists Lord Brahma in populating the universe and creating progeny. So that's the difference. Okay. Yes?